I don't know if this matters
Oh,
or.
wait. It didn't go live. There we go. Now we're live. Now we're live. What's going on, everybody? How's it shaking? So, on today's super spectacular, amazing, perfect, and not at all biased show, let's turn the music on real quick and get that going. We're going to talk about Marvel Studios and the latest debacle with Daredevil. We're going to talk about Moon Knight director not being a fan of Zack Snyder's. Oddly enough, Variety decided to tell everybody again that all the Zack Snyder hires won't be in the DCU. Shocking. And then we're also going to talk about our favorite moments from the past 10 years of the DCEU. So we're going to get into all of that. That should be fun for sure. But with me, as not always, but we got.
2 weeks in a row. I think we're starting to build a little bit of a streak over here.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, we got Kenneth Yambo with me. So we did have Lawrence earlier who said, hey, sorry, technical difficulties. So we started 9 minutes late. Apologies. Hey, Lawrence and Triton. No, it isn't. Yeah, I don't know what no, it isn't is about. I don't know. I don't pay attention to what I say half the time, Triton. So when you respond to me, I don't typically know. The surprise about the Zach cast. Okay. No, it isn't a surprise. Yeah, exactly. So, Ken, I know we just talked to ourselves for 10 minutes about how life is, but hey, how's life with you, man?
Well, to just I guess recap the past 10 minutes, life's good, man. It's ebbs and flows of it, but right now we're kind of on a lull period and just a time of like gathering and stuff. So excited to be here, excited to talk about what we're about to talk about and reminisce on what was, what could have been. It's going to be a fun show and ready to get the energy started.
Let's go. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, this past week hasn't been too hectic. I mean, it's a hectic time of year. We talked about that a little bit for sure, but yeah, I mean, the past couple days because I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I came up with the idea for the favorite DCEU moments, and then after that, it was kind of like, what else can we talk about here? Because there's really nothing going on. And luckily for us, over the last few days, some big stories decided to pop up. Before we get into all of that, though, something that just popped up just a few hours ago, I do want to talk about if there's any Dragon Ball fans out there, a new Dragon Ball series called Dragon Ball Diana has been announced for late 2024 to come out. Personally, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I don't know how I feel about this. What is that? Was that your phone?
That was my text tone. Sorry
Oh
about
man,
that.
that killed my ears. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about this because they're making all the main characters kids, and I don't know. I don't know. I just want a continuation of the stories that we've gotten in the manga up to this point and see where that leads. I would love to see that for sure. I know you're not a huge Dragon Ball fan or really have ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't categorize it as like, oh, I'm not a fan of Dragon Ball Z. It's just more of I haven't delved into, I guess, this corner of the universe. I think my animation experience more or less comes from Avatar: The Last Airbender on Nickelodeon, and more recently like Invincible. And I've also given a try for one anime. The name of it is escaping me. Attack on Titan, actually.
Mm,
So I've been able to get through about a decent chunk of this first season, but hit
yeah.
a lull because current shows came back and things of that nature. So definitely something I hope to delve into at some point in near future, far future. Something that seems like has a lot of material on it as well. So
Yeah. Triton says he was referring to the title of the stream because the title of the stream is "Oh yeah, it's all coming together," and I think it is. I think it is all coming together, but we'll talk about that here shortly. So let's move on to our first discussion at hand.
all right.
Daredevil Born Again has basically been scrapped as a new creative team is hired to redo the show almost completely. And here's the thing: it's this article as a whole is discussing actually things that there's been a huge issue with Marvel TV shows for years at this point that they haven't actually handled it very well. Going into and they don't get a project lead to run the show. No showrunners. They don't do pilot episodes. Basically, they would just shoot $100 million plus project and hope for the best. And then if it didn't work, they would just fix it in post production or reshoots. And that is a huge problem. And you can see some of that in the shows that have been released. They're not all great. And it's really interesting that it's starting with Daredevil.
Even I know that this is a formula that is also presented in their cinematic presentations, and even following a formula like that where you just shoot it all straight and then just kind of fix it in post production is not ideal. I guess they kind of skeeted by just because some of their movies were just of quality and it really just it helps supplement it rather than like replace things. But you could totally see the parts of reshoots that were in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Like, if you really pay attention, and I've read this on websites, but after I've seen it and watching it again, you can kind of notice it. It kind of seems like that's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is a good example of how their formula of shooting everything straight and then doing everything post production is not desirable. And my question to you is: so is this news like for Daredevil in terms of just their entire creative team being let go? Is this good news or bad news? Like, I feel like it's a combination of both, honestly, where you feel on one hand like, okay, they're scrapping everything and they're trying to get it right, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, it's like they were in production on this. Like, I know they didn't get like too far, but they definitely had production done. And it's like, how bad was it? And can it even be redeemable? Like,
Yeah, that's the thing, because like right now, like honestly, if we take a look at the show or like what they've done, they already filmed part of this show. I mean, it was filmed so much to the point where they're going to be losing millions of dollars on the production that they've done by scrapping this, which is insane to me. I mean, first off, is it a good thing? Well, if they get Daredevil showing up in his suit before the 4th episode, like originally they had planned, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I read that, and like and I'm not even sorry about that. My dog's dealing with a little bit of a kennel cough, but my thing when I read that, my first thought of mine was, where in the world is that a good idea? Where in a Daredevil series, the titular character shows up in costume in the 4th episode, like. We've been through some slow episodes on the Netflix Daredevil series, but nothing like that where it was like a 4 or 5 episode streak of just laying down groundwork and not really having any substance or
I mean,
action.
it was going to be 4 episodes of a legal drama, which, I mean, I don't mind watching legal dramas, but I don't tune into something like Daredevil to watch Law and Order. I watch Daredevil to see.
And then I guess the bigger picture discussion is more or less like, Daredevil's a perfect example of them showing that they don't really know what to do with their TV division, because you have all their episodes and shows kind of garnering complaints that, oh, it felt rushed, it felt short, most of them 6, 8, 10 episodes. And then out of nowhere, you have an 18 episode season of Daredevil now, and it's rebooted, but like soft rebooted and stuff, and they run the risk of kind of running long and kind of losing interest in people and losing interest midway through, which kind of happened, I felt like, even in the Netflix show a little bit. But that way I felt it was more about storyline decisions rather than the episode and season lengths. But I just hope that this is good news, honestly, that they're kind of scrapping it. And I was talking to a couple people from the Culture Nerd about this the other day, and somebody said, anything less than a direct continuation and basically a season 4 of Daredevil would be a disappointment to the fans. So it's kind of an uphill battle working from there. And me personally, I didn't like the characterization of Matt Murdock in Daredevil and She-Hulk. So I'm kind of hoping that the character that we've come to know in the Netflix series is kind of where we come to see in this series.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Are they truly scrapping everything? Are they going to be able to salvage any parts of what they filmed? I've heard that it does come directly based off of the writer's strike being over, that they had to redo some things for the show, but I feel that there's more to it. I mean, the article does say in late September, Marvel quietly let go of the head writers and also released the directors for the remaining of the season. So the director part is kind of interesting why they would let them go. Hollywood Reporter learned the studio is now on the hunt for new writers and directors for the project. And, yeah, I mean, when you
Restore
really...
the Daredevil verse. That's the hashtag we're going to get started up, and it could possibly go wrong. Am I right,
Release
Rob?
the Ord Corman cut.
Seriously. I mean, seriously though, like I know personally, I'm all caught up with the Netflix Daredevil series. Are you? Have you watched all 3 seasons?
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you fall on that statement of anything less than a direct continuation of where we were left off at in season 3? Like, I mean, not to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't seen it, but like the stuff that we saw at the end of season 3 totally sets up a season 4. So it's like, where do you fall on that question? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, for me, honestly, I am perfectly fine with them not continuing after season 3. Like, I would I have loved to have seen them continue that? Absolutely. But I'm under the impression already, just from what we've seen of Matt Murdock in the MCU, that this is a slightly altered version, not the same version we saw from Netflix, which I'm okay with. And I don't need to have that. That show's great. I can watch it when I want. It's on Disney Plus now. I can go and check it out. But that doesn't mean I have to watch it. Like, I don't mind if they decide to do something of their own. It sounded like that's what they were going to do to begin with. I mean, Wilson Fisk was going to be the mayor of New York in this show. After the events of what happened in those 3 seasons of Daredevil, there's no possible way that he could be mayor of New York City. I can't see it. It would be really hard for them to make that happen. Yeah. Plus, the fact that they were leaving out Karen Page. The Foggy stuff was supposedly that he was going to be killed or something like that. I don't even know.
Which led to him putting up the
hanging up the cow. Yeah. Yep. So again, it sounds like that they were not going that route. If they go that route, whatever. Regardless, I just want a good Daredevil show. You have Charlie Cox, who has been an amazing Matt Murdock. There's no reason not to make sure you get the best product out there. And honestly, what was it supposed to be? Like a 13-episode season or something like that?
When it was first announced, so when it was first announced, it was announced as an 18-episode show, which, again, is a big stark contrast to what we've gotten before. With I think their longest show was maybe WandaVision at 10 episodes, if they reached that.
But I don't mind if it's like, look, we want to go back to the drawing board. We want to make this right, so it's going to be 6 episodes. It's going to be 8 episodes, so we can get something out that really is good, as opposed to worrying so much about it being this grand 18-episode arc. I think just get us something good that we're all going to enjoy, and then if it's good, do another season. And
you have the elements. I know it's a lot more difficult than at least I'm about to portray, but it's like you have the ingredients. Just kind of lay it up, honestly. Like, just lean into the elements that worked in the Netflix show, but kind of make it your own in a sense. Again, this is as you said, it's a slightly altered version, and I hope part of me kind of hopes that they kind of directly address that in a sense, but with the way that they've handled the multiverse and variants and all this stuff up until this point, I kind of need to see it to believe it in order for me to believe that could be executed on a different level. And I read something the other day on Screen Rant where it was proposing that maybe like a Wilson Fisk could be set up as like the overarching villain of the next couple of, or like of being a phase villain, I guess you could say, kind of like Thanos was.
Well,
versus Kang and everything. And I think that that's an interesting prospect in and of itself.
Well, it seemed like that. I remember hearing rumors that they were going to go for a few different overarching enemies. You would have someone that is for the lower level, like street type of,
like street level,
Daredevil, your Spider-Man, that kind of things. And then you would have your bigger multiverse or galaxy endangering type of villain.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Like I'd be okay with that. And if it's Wilson Fisk, great.
And I think Marvel could use a little bit of that right now, where we're kind of bringing it down to kind of the basics with some of the characters. I think Spider-Man 4, whenever that releases and gets announced or officially announced and stuff like that, I think that going back to more of like street level crime and him protecting like New York City rather than facing, world-ending event after world-ending event, I think will benefit the character and kind of bring it back down to the roots of why we grew up loving Spider-Man, honestly. And that can be a bunch of different characters. I think street level crime, I'm thinking maybe like Midnight Suns could fit into that a little bit if like Blade ever gets made and stuff, and that could be like formulated and stuff. But
Let's
yeah,
not get into Blade right now.
I don't really know. Like, I think Blade kind of falls into the same category of this, where it was like the whole creative team kind of was let go and it was kind of just brought back to the drawing board in a sense with the script and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like they're doing a lot of damage control from the previous regime, and it's going to be interesting to see how these projects kind of churn out and what was announced can possibly maybe get canceled. I mean, I don't know. I think series focusing on like Ironheart and Agatha could definitely be, if it wasn't shot and produced by now, I feel like could definitely be on the chopping block, or examples of shows that maybe they shouldn't do and kind of focus on like higher tier of characters for their
Yeah,
Disney shows.
I don't know. I don't know at this point, and I just want good content. I don't really care who it is at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
just give
I
us
think
good content.
I think that's going to be the redemption of this genre as a whole over the next couple of years. Is just give us good content. Like, if you give us good content, we will come. Like, regardless of superhero movie, not superhero movie. Like, we can have that debate endless on for years and years and years. But if we can just get good, high quality content out there, people will watch, and
Hmm.
viewer numbers, subscription numbers, box office numbers will be kind of mediated and stuff. So hopefully that we get an influx of just increased quality rather than quantity.
Yeah, for sure. All right, but let us know your thoughts, everyone. Let us know what you think about this. I know, Triton, you're kind of quiet because you're not a huge Disney MCU fan as it is. But anybody else who's watching, or you're watching or listening later, whatever it is, let us know. I want to know your thoughts on this whole thing with Daredevil, because it is interesting, and I think it could be leading to revealing, not leading to, but revealing a bigger issue going on at Marvel Studios right now. But let's move on to the next topic, which this might get Triton's panties in a bunch here. So Moon Knight director Mohamed Diab believes that James Gunn is a very clever writer and greater artist than that of Zack Snyder. Now, is this really a big deal? Is it? There's some people that have been freaking out online about this.
Okay, and this is going to be a trend for our DC talk over the next 20 or so minutes. Is that it's just an opinion. Like, people are allowed to have their own opinions about stuff, and just reading the full quote, it's more just about giving James Gunn his flowers than slighting Zack Snyder. So yeah, at this point, people are just feasting at straws to like grasp at and find other reasons to be mad and stuff, and it's definitely frustrating for sure, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I did my own video the other day about this, so I figured you could voice your opinion here. But here's the full quote. It says, "I know that some people don't like James Gunn," and this is what Mohamed Diab was saying when he was asked about James Gunn taking over the DCU. He goes, "But I see him as a great artist who will do great work. Frankly, I didn't like the past period. The last film, Zack Snyder's Justice League, was significantly better than the first version, but in the end, Snyder's work in all the movies he made didn't appeal to me." That's an opinion. He's allowed to have it. But even that's not what people have been upset about. It's this next quote that he has. He goes, "I like James Gunn's films much more. I think he's a much greater artist and a very clever writer, and he will do excellent work for DC. I hope people won't just criticize him, because if he loses the DC audience, he's done. But he is an artist, and he will create wonderful things." That's what he says. And, when you really read that, like, if you take that first portion, about Zack Snyder out of it, if you heard him just say, "I like James Gunn's films much more. I think he's a much greater artist and very clever writer," he could be talking about anybody. It's just the simple fact that he mentioned Zack Snyder's Justice League. And not only that, but he actually, in a small way, praised that Zack Snyder's Justice League was better than the first version. But overall, the films that Zack made didn't appeal to him. And that's his opinion. But people are mad because he's a director. You shouldn't slight other directors. If you're a director, you should not slight other directors, is what they say. And he can be a fan and a director at the same time. It's not like you don't have to be one or the other. And in this case, I mean, he's just like, look, I'm a fan of James Gunn. I like his stuff better than I like Zack Snyder. I think he's a better writer. I think he's, a great artist.
He's not the only one. I'm sure he's definitely not the only one that voices this exact opinion. Like,
exactly. And even I've said, like, I enjoy Zack Snyder's films. I think, when it comes to his visuals, there's no one that can match him really right now within the comic book genre, I should say, or, that type of action. I don't think anybody can match him. But when he writes, his stories always just seem a little too large, too big for what he's trying to put across. And I think that holds him back a little bit. And that's not a bad thing. That's not to say that he's terrible. But when you think of James Gunn, he is a very clever writer. He's a good writer. He knows how to write a movie very well. If you look at all of his movies, they're all very well structured. From your beginning part, your middle, like all three acts are perfectly structured. There really is never any baggage or bloat in his films. He's a good writer. As the artist side, I wouldn't say he's a great artist, but I think he's very good. He's not as visually stunning as Zack Snyder. He's not as all in like craziness as like someone like Chris Nolan, but he's a good director. He's got a good eye. So to sit there and say that he can't say that, yes, anybody can have that opinion. Anybody can, and it's just again just like you said, it's just another reason for, like I call them the Snyder Bros, the Snyder cult, whatever you want to call it. It's just another reason for them to start complaining and bringing up reasons why James Gunn is terrible and shouldn't run DC.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about we've just talked about this in general and ad nauseum at this point where, I'm embracing and just moving on. Honestly, like, we will forever have what we have, and that'll never be taken away from us. And I'm just ready to embrace the new, which is something else that I guess what you call them Snyder Bros got mad at. I guess it was the prospect of a newly casted Justice League and stuff. And again, we all knew that Zack Snyder's movies didn't appeal to everybody. It's obviously very evident in the way that the Snyderverse and the DCEU's trajectory as a whole went. Where you're using this episode as a time to reflect, and part of that is kind of reflecting on how like everything turned out and stuff. And it's like, Snyder's vision appealed to everybody. I feel like we'd still be kind of in the middle of it. And for right now, obviously it did not hit with everybody, even though it completely hit with me. And I will always give those movies a watch whenever I feel like watching those movies. But, it's just something that you just have to get over at this point. And not doing so and not supporting this is only going to make things worse, honestly. And I definitely just want to have fun and go back to the movies and really have my anticipation back for superhero movies. So
absolutely.
I'm hoping. And, it's not 100% guaranteed that James Gunn's going to be able to do a good job because he has a tough job ahead of him. But you have to give him the benefit of the doubt for right now, and you just have to trust his vision and what he knows what he wants to do, because I doubt somebody of Gunn's stature and personality would go at this with the idea of failing, honestly, because I just don't feel like that's the way he carries himself. And I know that at the very minimum, I know that a lot of work and personal emotion is going to be poured into Superman Legacy. So can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see the beginning of it, and can't wait to just see what this new world brings us.
Yeah. Well, Triton, as I expected, not very happy by these comments. And he goes, a nobody director of mediocre MCU sucks off Gunn and shits on Snyder in the hopes of getting a DCU job. F him. Surprised he's not pulled the race card to push back against the backlash. Look, here's the thing. Do I think for one moment that he's trying to get a job with Gunn at the DCU? 100%, yes. I think he is. But I also think he's speaking truthfully about his feelings on something, and that's okay. You know, the one thing that you hear so much on social media, and I get pushed back on all the time because I'm always telling people, like, all right, it's time to move on, it's time to move on, it's time to move on. And everybody's like, no, we need to share our feelings. We need to share our feelings. We need to let them know how much we hate this or hate that or whatever. Well, he has the same right. You know, he has the ability. He was asked a question and he answered it honestly, and then he backed it up with reasons why he thinks James Gunn is going to do a good job with DC after a decade of DC that has struggled mightily. You know, we that's the thing that a lot of people just seem to not understand and forget is the past 10 years, regardless if we loved 4 or 5 of the projects in it or not, in the past 10 years, it has struggled mightily. And that is, you know, that's the facts. Like, so he's just going to answer that way. I'm sorry.
Not for nothing, the director, not for nothing, the director could definitely be somebody that I would love to see kind of tackle on maybe like a Council of Wizards short series on HBO Max that kind of establishes Magic and the reestablishment of like Shazam and characters like Black Adam into the DCU.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He has his hand in television. He understands that a little bit.
Yep.
Get him to do a Nightwing series. That's all I want is a Nightwing series. Just focus on Nightwing. He's nothing like Moon Knight, I know. But I just want a Nightwing series, that's all.
Action-wise, I could totally see it, honestly.
Yeah, it could work out action-wise for sure. For sure. Okay, but let us know your thoughts in the comments about all of this. What do you think about Mohamed Diab pumping up James Gunn and essentially saying, hey, Zack Snyder stuff wasn't for me? What do you think about that? Let us know in the comments below. All right, so moving on to the next topic. Before our main one, this one just baffled me this week because
this is so odd. I actually didn't know about any of this until I saw it on the notes that you shared with me, and so I had to like do a little research into this, and this is just odd. This is
but you know, this is the new poster for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This took me like 15 minutes to make. All right, so
part of me, yeah, that's impressive. Honestly, I would definitely get on the phone with Warner Bros. Discovery and kind of figure something out. Maybe you could have like a Boss Logic sort of deal with them. But
my favorite aspect I put in there is right here. You got Elon Musk just snooping in there.
I didn't even see that. But is it beyond the realm of possibility that Jason Momoa showed up dressed up as Johnny Depp on set? Is there like is there a part
this is the poster, obviously. Honestly, do I think it could have happened?
Did you dress similar? I mean, like they have rambunctious styles. Like,
look, I don't know. This whole thing with Amber Heard is just getting out of hand. Why they had to bring this up at all? Like, why did Variety have to write a story about this? Like, this Amber Heard Johnny Depp stuff is over a year old. That ended a year ago, more than a year ago.
We're still talking about it.
It's still being talked about at this point. Like, who cares anymore? Like, let's just move on. And that's
has she reached the point of basically just being unhireable at this point?
I think so. Triton says, I think Momoa could pull off the Jack Sparrow look. Well, look, Triton, right here. I have it. There you go. It's right there.
Our logo.
Yeah, I forgot to put that in the notes. I wasn't even going to talk about it. But the thing is, with this article, you know, what bothers me the most about it is the fact that, what the heck happened here? Come on. Is the fact that there's really no reason to talk about this alongside DCU stuff. You know, like I know that they brought up the whole idea that Momoa would not be returning. You know, it doesn't look like he'll be returning, and he could be Lobo. That's the rumor. But there was no reason to then say, and this person won't be there, and this person won't be there, and this person won't be there, and this person. It's like, it really seems like this article by Variety, it was a very much clickbait article. Like, we haven't had people talking about Variety for a while, so let's just throw a whole bunch of DC stuff and people will get angry and post it. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and this is stuff that we've already known. Like, we've spoken about this when we kind of brought the topic up, is that we've known that the Justice League's going to get recasted. Like, this is not new news to us. So it's just them to just rile up the Snyder Bros, as you like to call them. I'm sure they did their job successfully. It's just interesting. I know that we spoke about it briefly last week, but if Jason Momoa ends up becoming Lobo and ends up kind of being incorporated into the Superman legacy, then I think kind of following the Tomorrowverse in a way where it was like Man of Tomorrow kind of followed a premise similar is interesting. I think it's the way to go. So just hearing that is honestly something that is really exciting and just really indicative of how James Gunn envisions this universe blossoming in Superman Legacy.
Yeah, I'm just kind of showing you. You want to talk about doing it successfully. I'm going through these tweets for the last since the 10th have been nothing but that about Snyder. Basically, the notifications I've been getting have been insane, absolutely insane. But that's the thing. I mean, we all knew that the Justice League members, at the very least, the Justice League members would not be part of the DCU. It makes no sense to continue on with the heavy hitters from a failed universe. There's no reason to do it. The best idea is to just recast all of them. Yeah, there was a time where everybody thought Gal Gadot would be back or that Jason Momoa could be back, but overall, when all was said and done, we all knew that they wouldn't be coming back. But why are they bringing back John Cena and Viola Davis? Well, that's the problem people are having is, well, they're bringing back these characters. It doesn't matter at this point. They're no-name characters, essentially. Amanda Waller is not a household name. Peacemaker is not a household name. Blue Beetle's not a household name. But Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, those are household names. And you want to differentiate yourself from a failed universe. And people just can't accept that.
I'll express that I disagree with you. I think that if you're going to do a reboot the whole damn thing. I don't care if it's no-name characters all the way up to damn Batman himself. I think total reboot was something that the DCU should have embraced, regardless of who came before and what. If you wanted to continue it in like Elseworlds things, then that's fine. But to have them in the continuation of the DCU, I'm not really too excited. I'm not excited, but that I'm just not too happy about. Just from the outset, it does seem like it's just going to be characters that Gunn, that basically Snyder didn't have a hand in casting, and is what it looks like, honestly. And I just think personally that there are a lot of great actresses out there that could be a great Amanda Waller, and one that has always come up as a fan cast is CCH Pounder. I think she would be a great one, and there's just a bunch of other people that probably could be great peacemakers and things of that nature. So,
yeah, I mean, here's
I don't know.
We've talked about this. I do agree that a reboot should have been a full reboot. I do agree with that. But I don't disagree with going this direction. Like, I understand why he's doing it and what he's doing, because he has an affinity for Peacemaker. John Cena is the best man for that role, and he's just been established, and he had a hit TV show. So I get that. Viola Davis is a huge megastar. I can understand why holding on to her if you can. And Jolo as Blue Beetle, his movie really wasn't established in any specific universe, so that's an easy one to pull over. But when it gets down to it, it doesn't. The idea of keeping some actors and not others is really irrelevant. We need to just be patient and see how everything plays out. And that's kind of how you need to look at it. Triton here says Gunn not using Snyder's cast means he can't ruin them. Besides, when we get Snyder's JL 2 and 3, in whatever form, it'd be Elseworlds anyway, so Snyder's Justice League not being the DCU Justice League means nothing to me. And that's another good point. I mean, that's how people need to look at it. The one thing I said on social media the other day is James Gunn can't win for trying. He can't. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Yeah.
If he keeps Cavill, people are mad because it's not Snyder's Superman. If he gets rid of Cavill, people are mad because Cavill's no longer Superman. And I'm just taking that as an example, just Superman as an example. No matter what he did in that instance, he was going to be criticized. And that falls down onto the fans with their expectations. This is no longer the studio screwing over the fans. This is no longer the studio being assholes like they were during the last regime when they would say, snide remarks in different interviews. This is not the same thing. It's the fans have this expectation, which is not even a realistic expectation. And when it doesn't happen, they blame James Gunn. When they need to just remove all their expectation, take their emotion out of it, and just let things play out. Just like we used to do in the early 2000s with superhero films. We didn't have any expectation. I remember when Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins came out, I had no expectations. I had no really desire to even see it. I didn't see it in theater. I didn't see it until it came to video. And I was like, holy shit, this is a good movie. Because there was just no expectation. There was no desire because I didn't care as much at the time. And in a way, we need to get back to that. So maybe without these expectations, we can be blown away. And that's what needs to happen, I think, with fans. I just think that needs to happen. I don't know.
It's going to be this type of talk and this type of clickbait news until, I guess, the actor strike is over, which unfortunately seems like it's going to be extended for a little bit longer. But once that gets resolved, I feel like we're going to get casting announcements because I feel like Gunn's alluded to some things in the works before the strikes happen. So hopefully those things will materialize as well. And then I'm just excited for like new news, casting news, directing news, writing news. Like I'm just excited for it all. So I'm ready for, reminiscing a little bit, so definitely, definitely been a trying 10 years as DCEU fans. Am I right, Rob?
More than right. More than right. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. Please, we want to know what you think about everything because it has been a very, very interesting time being a DC fan. And over the last 10 years, we've had some unfortunate moments and unfortunate circumstances and instances, but we've also had some pretty amazing ones as well. So for those of you watching live, start to think of some of your favorite fan DCEU moments or favorite moments from movies. We're going to talk about some of ours right now. And let me see if I can get this all squared away because I'm new to this thing. And there we go. Look at that. Look, I'm learning. I'm learning how to do stuff. You see that? Look at that. Look. Wait, you can't see what I'm doing, can you?
No.
Look at me doing stuff on the fly. Look at that. That looks...
I believe you.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Oh, wrong button. Yeah. So I'll let you go ahead first. I want to know...
Yeah, so how do you want to do this? Did you want to, like, alternate, or did you want to do, like, all at once in terms of, like, ranked, or...
No, man, you just go. Like, we're just going to talk... There's no ranking or anything. Just tell us, what are your favorite moments from the DCEU?
Okay, so I know you said we're not going ranked, but I guess I just had them like my top orders. So number one for me is going to be the day in Comic-Con in 2015 when the first Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad trailers came out. It kind of felt like the dawn of a new universe in a way where we kind of got tangible evidence that, like, holy shit, this is happening. Like, DC is about to have its own cinematic universe with like characters that are going to interact with each other and things of that nature. So I just remember that day. I remember that day as clear as day. And I just remember the feeling I had of running home and watching the almost, I feel like 4-minute introductory trailer to Batman vs. Superman. And then to get it directly followed up with basically the trailer for David Ayer's version of the Suicide Squad, was definitely a riveting moment for me, and I can imagine that my YouTube stats were definitely skewed towards those two trailers for that year and as a whole. And I don't know, I just remember my feelings after, before, during, and after watching those trailers, and I just feel like the hype train was just never higher than at that moment. So
Yeah.
that's definitely number one for me, honestly. If you wanted to like kind of go off of like your number one moment or
Yeah, I
just
mean,
a moment.
I'm just gonna say, you know, this isn't in any particular order for me. These were just the ones that, at the top, off the top of my head, I was like, man, these moments just, I miss this. I miss this when it comes to DCU. The first one, and I still remember sitting in the theater by myself. I mean, not by myself. I mean, there was a crowd there, but I went to the theater myself to go see Man of Steel. And prior to that, I've never, like, a superhero movie has never made me cry per se. I started to tear up at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Alfred really got me at the funeral scene. He really got me there. But um, you know,
Michael Caine crying
yeah,
can
well,
make any man cry.
very
So
true, very true. Got nothing to be ashamed about. But no, Man of Steel like did something to me emotional. And the moment in that movie where I started to realize that it was hitting me emotional in an emotional way was the first flight. Was the moment that he stepped out in the Superman costume from the ship and started trying to fly. And you know, first he jumps and he fails, but just that voiceover from Russell Crowe, just everything there, you know, it really is a moment that makes you believe a man could fly. They did, but whether it's, you know, just the, it's not just the, I mean, it was everything involved: the music, the acting, the photography, the script, everything about it was just perfect. And for me, that was the moment where I was like, this movie is hitting me in a way that no superhero movie has ever hit me before. And yeah, I will always remember that.
speaking of Man of Steel, one of my moments, top moments that I listed for myself is just that entire final battle sequence between Zod and Kal-El. I feel like that really pushed the genre moving forward and pushed the bar, honestly, in terms of how we can portray these superhuman beings going up against each other. And I thought it was shot beautifully, as you come to expect with Zack Snyder. And I just felt like that last hour of that movie is probably some of the best that we've seen, despite it being as controversial as it may came off as, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
But I just thought the emotional beats and the portrayal of the powers and the destruction and everything all played a role into just making this feel, as you said, kind of like a heavy hitting movie emotionally. So, yeah, no, that's definitely one of my top moments for sure. Is just that final battle for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm going to add this. I didn't have this on my list, but I figured this was going to happen as we're sitting here talking about things. You know, for me, you're talking about the Zod Superman fight Man of Steel. I have not gone back to a superhero fight as much as I've gone back to the Doomsday fight in Batman vs Superman. To
Really?
me, that fight, everything,
Really?
everything is just spectacular in that
I
scene.
argue that that wasn't even the best fight in the movie. I feel like the
Really?
warehouse scene with Batman was probably the
See,
best choreographed, honestly, move.
choreographed, yes, I can buy that. But the thing that I love about the Doomsday fight, everything about it highlights each of the three heroes that are there and showcases what makes them not only different from one another, but also how they can come together and work as a team. And not only that, but the music again,
Yeah.
great music by Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer. You know, I don't know if Hans was part of that score or not, that piece there, but the music is phenomenal there. And then that battle then leads to You Are My World, and it hits me emotional again. You know, it's a very emotional scene. And I remember going to the theater, and I walked out of the theater, and I was so disappointed in that movie. But that moment, that fight stuck out to me as being spectacular. It just, to me, the rest of the movie wasn't great. And then
Right.
once it came out on video, and you know, I got the extended cut, then I started watching it more and more and more. And literally, if I'm at home and I'm bored and none of the kids are on the TV or anything. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'll put on the last 45 minutes of Batman v Superman, and I'll
Fair,
watch that fight all the way to
fair,
the end
fair.
because it's just phenomenal in my opinion.
Yeah, no. So I guess one of my moments is kind of tied into that, where I kind of alluded to it, where the Batman warehouse scene is quite arguably the best on big screen fight from a Batman that we've seen, honestly, ever. So I definitely wanted to tie that in there. But I guess an answer that could probably be applicable to both of us is the whole Zack Snyder Justice League experience. Like, from the moment we were clamoring from it, from the moment that it was announced, from the wait after it was announced, to release, to post, to restore the Snyderverse. I just feel like that in general has to be on our list, regardless of where we would like place it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to get your thoughts about just
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, the initial reaction, I would say, really the probably like the month leading up to it, and even then, I would say the following like 2 to 3 weeks. There was nothing like being a Snyder and DC fan at that point in time, and the reason being is the lead up to the announcement. We were all sniffing that something was going on, thanks to the culture nerd, thanks to some other people. It was getting out there that there was movement. You had the release the Snyder Cut movement that were, very honorable and respectful at that time. They were doing some great things. And I remember I was sitting right here, right over here, watching on my computer the whole thing, the watch along that Snyder did. And we all knew, most of us knew, oh, this is going to happen. And when he announced it, I mean, I remember I stood up, I was excited, I threw my hands up, I was pumped to see what was going to, that it was happening. And then those following few weeks, it was just, this is happening. We're, all this asking, all this hoping that we would get to see it at some point. It's happening. And that was probably the last time, I would say, probably those following couple weeks was the last time where the fans were truly united. They were truly just together in their excitement, ready and raring to go to see Zack Snyder's Justice League. After those few weeks, everything started to fall apart. You had your grifters, you had your scoopers, you had all of this who were trying to say that we were getting more, and whether or not what they were hearing was true or not, that's not for me to say. But that's when everything started to fall apart within the fandom.
yeah.
So those few weeks right there, to me, was an amazing time. Absolutely.
Yeah, what a time, honestly. I don't feel like I've ever emotionally been on such a roller coaster like that. But my final entry into just my top moments is something that I'm reminded of when I see this picture that we have from the direct over here of Black Adam, and that's kind of that post-credit scene, kind of piggybacking off what you were saying in terms of hope of future and stuff, and just seeing that post-credit scene and just seeing a DC universe that could possibly have restored, in a sense, the Snyderverse characters and a continuation of just their characters within a larger DC universe. And then the posts from Cable after on Instagram a couple days after, kind of announcing his return. I feel like the hype for that was just beyond belief, and just seeing it materialize in front of me was just kind of jarring and really, really cool to see. Honestly, it's might be the I don't want to say the first time, but one of the few times that a Snyder character has crossed over, other than Wonder Woman, obviously, but has crossed over into just like another property. So it was definitely cool, and the promise from that time period, that like 2 month time period, was really bright until things obviously churned out and kind of turned out to where we're getting to the DCU, which is fine, but definitely our last glimmer of hope for everything hinged on that. So
Yeah. Triton goes, the entire time every film when Snyder was in charge, the period from the Snyder Cut being announced to it getting released, and Joker coming out. Joker's not part of the DCEU. Get that shit out of here. That movie's terrible. He goes, that's it. Everything else has been hell. He goes, seriously, not counting the Snyder Cut, since it's technically a film from 2017, Joker is the only DC film after Aquaman 2018 that didn't repulse me, offend me, frustrate me, or piss me off. That sucks, man. That movie's terrible. Uh,
Wow,
I'm
that's
sorry.
a whole other show that
Yeah, yeah.
we'll get to at some point.
One day we'll do a show where I talk about why the Dark Knight is not as good as everybody says, and we'll also talk about why the Joker is terrible. One day.
And then you could also probably add why Civil War is
Oh,
one of your bottom Marvel movies ever.
that is the worst MCU movie. It is. It is the worst MCU movie. On my list, it's always bottom.
I'm not busy next Thursday, so I can catch you next Thursday. We can have that type of conversation right here about Rob's hot takes.
Rob's hot. Oh man, that'd be fun. Rob's hot takes would be fun. I would love to get a bigger audience to yell at me because that would be fun. I do have two more because I kind of added one that I didn't necessarily have added. Ben Affleck being announced as Batman for me was one of those jaw-dropping, like, holy shit, that makes sense moments. I was actually on my computer in my kitchen having a political fight with some kids in a Facebook group. And I was getting really heated, really pissed off, and I probably should have logged off way before then. But luckily I didn't, because I got a little message that popped up, and it was Ben Affleck has signed on as Batman. And I freaked out, and I was like, hey, everybody, it was fun arguing, but screw you, I'm Ben Affleck's Batman. Now I'm going to go talk about that. And yeah, it was one of those things, like, it was like, why didn't anybody else ever think of that? And I'm sure they did, but, you know, at the time, like, Ben Affleck as Batman, that makes perfect sense. Like, it made sense. And the fact that there was so much,
Vitriol over,
yeah, it was really bizarre to me because
I was on the train of I just wanted them to cast somebody really good for Batman. That's where I was at with that whole casting wait and see approach. And then once they announced Ben Affleck as Batman, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I think he really did well in the town and stuff like that. So I can kind of see it, but I want to kind of wait and see what like a trailer would look like or like a picture would look like and stuff. And he killed it. To me, he's obviously, in my opinion, and this is my own opinion, I think he's the best Batman interpretation that I've seen on screen. So it was an honor watching his character kind of progress out through the way it was. Obviously, wish that we got more, but I love his interpretation of the character, and I'm forever grateful that Zach and Ben were able to collaborate on the projects that they were able to collaborate on.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely love that, and I just don't understand why people were so against it. To me, it was a casting announcement that literally made sense. You know, when they cast Heath Ledger, I was one of the ones who was like, that's kind of odd. When they cast, you know, Gal Gadot, you know, like that was on. Like, most castings to me have always been like, I don't see it, but the Ben Affleck one to that point, I was like, that just makes sense. Literally, it makes sense. I know at the time I was a big fan of bringing Josh Brolin in, like, because that was one of the rumors.
Yep.
I would have loved to have seen Josh Brolin, but the Affleck thing made a lot of sense. And finally, my last thing, and, you know, in a way we're going to get back to this, which is exciting to me, is the not knowing of what the quote-unquote end game is for the DC universe. And the reason why I say that is we didn't really know what they were doing after Snyder left. You know, a lot of scoopers, a lot of websites, a lot of outlets tried to say, oh, they're leading to Crisis, they're leading to this. I heard a lot of different things. But what really hurt me was, you know, when Snyder Cut got released or was announced, it was all of a sudden just a waterfall of information of where Zach was going to lead everything, where he was going to take everything. And don't get me wrong, I ate it up just as everybody else did. But there's something about not knowing that is a little more exciting than knowing. I've always been one that didn't mind spoilers. Like, I knew what was going to happen in Endgame. I knew what was going to happen in like, I literally read the entire script of The Rise of Skywalker before it came out. It didn't bother me. But, you know, I also like that sense of not knowing and being surprised. And even if Zach does get to finish his arc at this point, we know a lot of the major story beats he's going to go for, and it's a little disappointing to me.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it's kind of funny. It really is like a cycle that we're in because now we really don't know. We never knew what the end game of the DCEU was versus now we don't know what the end game of the DCU is. So I guess things remain consistent on that end. But I think that's part of the reason why I'm embracing the DCU is because there has to be at least a vision for where this is heading. And it's exciting because I feel like a lot of DC events in the comic books are larger than what Marvel has to offer, and just crazier in general of what they have to offer
Yeah.
in terms of Marvel. And I just think that those are missed opportunities that they keep missing and missing. And I just hope that this is a venture that takes advantage of the source material and really embraces it. And I think they have the right person in place for James Gunn because he has a tremendous amount of respect for source material and definitely tries his best to incorporate that and to use it to the movie's strengths. But definitely excited to see what the end game of the DCU is. I would hope that maybe one day it'd be like a Fallen Kingdom in a way where we kind of get thrown back to like an older Justice League cast. And who knows, maybe that opens the door for a couple of Snyderverse actors to come back and kind of bring closure to their characters in a sense. It seemed impossible that Andrew Garfield would come back, but lo and behold, we saw him in the flesh back in a Spider-Man costume. So
Yeah.
I think the limits are endless, and I think the way that Gunn ended everything for Our Mercy was the right thing to do. And then it kind of leaves the door open in a sense where if we can end everything on amicable terms with these actors and actresses, that maybe we can bring them back in a scenario where we're pitting like an older version of the Justice League, more jaded version versus the one that we just spent the last 10 years building and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think the possibilities are endless, and I'll just say never say never when it comes to closing the book on the DCEU. You'll never really know what happens. So um, you almost have to at this point. Like you're so used to everything being so fluid with DC at this point that like nothing's really off the table at this point. So
Yeah.
just embracing what was, looking forward to what is, and yeah, take it from there. Honestly,
Last thing before we get out of here, Triton says, I know Batfleck will die fighting Darkseid in Snyder's JL3, and I know I'm going to effing love it. As will I. As will I. But it still doesn't mean that it wouldn't have been cool to not know that was coming and just be completely shocked by the event happening. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Next week, are we going to do, as of right now, I guess we'll do some of my hot takes next week. I'll let you pick. Ken, you pick which, do you want me to do a Marvel hot take or a DC hot take, and we'll go from there. And we'll just
yeah, how about both, honestly.
depending on the amount of stories. We'll pick if we've got a lot of newsworthy stories. We'll just go with one, but if we don't have a lot, we'll go with a couple. So
No, that sounds good, Rob. I'll definitely be here next week so we can make it 3 weeks in a row.
Whoa!
And we can start considering me back to being a co-host in a sense. So.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Be nice for sure. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Please hit that like button, hit subscribe. I should probably hit those buttons, right? There we go. Hit that button, click like, subscribe, notifications, all that stuff. You know what to do. You know the thing.
I'm just pointing in general direction. Just click it. Subscribe.
Everybody, you mean Triton. Yes, Triton, you are everybody. We appreciate you very much so, Triton. Thank you. You need to tell your friends to tune in.
Oh, I will. Believe me, we will have some.
I'm telling Triton to tell his friends to tune in. We need like a British brigade of Bridging to Geekdom's fans. That's what we need. So make it happen, Triton. Make it happen. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to all of you later.